Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I'm restarting this because I messed up I didn't have the video going when I thought I did. I haven't actually gotten to looking at the cards. All I've done is unwrapped them and set them here, and was talking about the guidebook when I realized I hadn't pressed play. So I have not looked yet here, but we are looking at the Daehwas of Creation. From what I understand, I should look in the guidebooks. I think it tells you that. Devas is what looks like Devas is supposed to be pronounced Daehwas. I love that she put that and explained it in the guidebook. Turn my phone off. So this is Daehwas of Creation, Working with the Energies of the Universe by Cilla Conway. I've heard really good things about this deck, and it's been on my wish list for a while. And Miss Mystic Crone, as she's known here, or I think she's changed her name, but I don't know what the new name is. Because I know her, obviously, her regular name. She sent this along with some goodies for my birthday, and I wanted to do sort of a first impressions of this one. And then, of course, as I've been doing, I will go back to talk to you about how I find working with this, because I intend to roll right into working with this. And I'm really excited. I have a feeling that I know this is going to work beautifully with the Weaver's Oracle. And as Mystic Crone has pulled some multiple cards for me with Weaver's cards, so I was able to see that. And as well as Patrick picked this up and put them together as well. So I'm really excited to be working with this beautiful, beautiful deck. So just to recap here, it's got a really nice, I don't know what I expected, because I feel like this is self-published, but I might be wrong. It doesn't really have a major publisher placed on here anywhere. So I think that she's published it, but it's a nice box, like a Blue Angel box. And it's nice and thin and compact, which is beautiful for popping on your shelf. So this I was surprised about. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect that. So I love that. It comes with a color guidebook with color representations of the cards. They're small, but they're there. And let me make sure I'm right, because yes, Daehwa, which it looks like Daehwa, is pronounced Daehwa. Dae being masculine and Daehwi being feminine. The Indo-European root word is Daehwas. And we see different derivatives that she talks about in most languages, and it kind of gives some different ones that we see in other languages, but she puts the pronunciation as Daehwa, so that is very, very helpful. It says Daehwa is a Sanskrit word meaning shining one. It has more of an animist slant than our more familiar term angel, which comes from the Greek angelos, meaning messenger. So this is a little bit more of an earth-based here. The Daehwas are primordial energies, invisible energy patterns in the universe, which is all up my alley, which contain the blueprints for every aspect of existence, from the smallest subatomic particle to the universe itself. They are multidimensional beings, each one part of the implicate order that physicist David Bohms talks about, where the universe is simultaneously the whole and all its enfolded layers. Thus, every Daehwa contains within itself the whole cosmos, the holographic image of divinity. We ourselves are an integral part of that underlying order, a unique particle of the divine mind. And so that is what this has. The images are intended to be a doorway into wider consciousness, that deeper, truer self which yearns for connection and meaning. Looking up at the sky laced with the most delicate of clouds on a perfect autumn morning, or down into the fronds of fern, or the mystery of life in a newborn's eyes, we feel that connection that begins and ends with love. Too often, though, in our day-to-day lives, we find this difficult to remember. The Daehwa cards remind us that love of the different planes of existence and of the whole immensity of creation. How beautiful is that? She talks about how, suggestions for working with the cards. She talks about shadow energies. It talks about being aware that Daehwas, angels, elemental energies can't be judged by our own idea. We all have our shadow self, the parts that we prefer not to acknowledge, and there are certainly shadow Daehwas, which are called Usaras, if that's pronounced correctly. If you feel that you're being threatened by something dark, you can choose to avoid it. We're talking about, working with shadow here. Again, suggestions on how to work with them. And then it gives us a breakdown of the structure of the deck, and it does it with thumbnails of the actual images, which I think is fantastic. Does it say how many cards there are? Apparently she has a tarot deck called the Intuitive Tarot. 72 cards, each one an artwork in its own right, in a 100-page guidebook. So there's 72 cards. So if we have the source 0 through 3, we have the first emanation of the shining ones, which is 4 through 13. We have the second emanation, which are the fundamental laws, which is 14 through 17. The third emanation, the elements. The fourth emanation is the numinous and ambivalent energies. And then the fifth emanation, oh my goodness, has the shadow energies here, 31 through 35. And then it gets into the physical universe. So we'll talk about this breakdown more once we can actually look at the cards. And then we look at those planetary. Oh my goodness, Devas of the Daehwas. I'm so sorry if I keep saying the wrong thing. So yeah, we'll take a look at that breakdown when we pull the cards out. For the guidebook itself, so the very first card is Void, which I love. Now, the card stack on this is not amazing, I will say. It's nothing to write home about. It's got an interesting texture, almost grittier texture on the back, and a smoother satiny front. And you can already see a little bit of chipping. I definitely think that edging these either in black, or except for, I will talk about that in a minute, but be careful with the lighter ones, because Patrick tried it with an alcohol marker and it did seep through. I'm going to do it with Tombow, so I don't think I'm going to have an issue, but you do want to be careful. But it really cleans up the edges of this particular deck. Anyways, coming back here. So cardstock wise, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel absolutely wretched, but it definitely doesn't feel great. So we have 0, the Void. I am the infinite deep, in whom all the worlds appear to rise, beyond all form, forever still, so am I. And this is from the Ashtavakra Gita. I'm sure that I slaughtered that, and I do apologize. I didn't know there were going to be quotes from... Doesn't look like they're all... I have that there. So this says, the different chapters of the creation story begin with the energies that comprise divinity. The first and almost impossible for us to imagine is the Void, the 0. Before anything else, the Void was, is, and will be. The Void is absolute 0, chaos forming all possibilities. The Void is inside and outside everything, the vacuum of nothingness between all physical manifestations. This is the 0 point. The Void challenges us to empty ourselves, to allow ourselves to experience non-being. In our normal state, we constantly strive, rush, muse, worry, talk, and laugh, though how rarely do we talk about anything important. I feel like I have a lot of great friends and community that does talk about a lot of important things, but I mean, I get the point there. Here in the Void, we can let go of thoughts, consciousness, mind itself. In the Void, we encounter the simultaneous paradox of non-existence and infinite possibility. So I think this is really beautiful. This, I used this concept a lot in meditation. For me, darkness has actually always been a very positive thing. Like it's this paradox of non-existence and infinite possibility. So I really love this card. And then it gives you a blank space to be able to write your own experience and what you think about that card. And she also has The idea of the void is absolute zero as coming from Mellon Thomas Benedict, Journey Through the Light and Black. So there's, I don't know if that's the only one. Nope, there's some other like footnotes at the bottom. So if there's any information that you know that's pertinent, it's there. So that's really amazing. So we have that for each of the cards all the way through to the 71st card, which goes back to the void, which is really beautiful. But we're going to look at the structure in a minute. And then it has spread. So we have a triangle spread, a star spread. Those are the two, triangle and star. Although I feel like this deck probably is going to be fine with 3 cards. I feel like you probably more than get messages and hear, you know, kind of sink into the energy of the cards with 3 of these. But that's what the guidebook is. Really beautiful. I've actually read quite a few of these just with people sending me clips to be able to see what certain things might mean. So I do quite like this. It gives you enough information to sink into, and then really lets you start to form your own associations with the cards. So that is the guidebook here. Now I'm gonna zoom out actually, because I want to approach this a little bit more because this does have quite a structure. Look at this beautiful box. Mystic Crone, I keep almost saying her real name. Mystic Crone sent me this as well with some other goodies, and it's the Daehwas of Creation. It looks like the Tree of Life to me. So anyways, I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm probably going to need to move these out of the way as well so that I can have some space to talk about the structure of this deck, because I think that's important actually. Okay, so here we have the cards. You can see obviously they're very black and very white. That, for me personally, can't stay that way because at the very minimal I would do this black. Again, just to make note, Patrick did use alcohol markers, not Sharpie, but it was the Spectrum Noir, I believe, which are alcohol-based markers. And on some of the lighter one of the lighter cards, before he realized it was going to be a problem, it did seep through. And so if you're using alcohol markers and using multicolor, you want to use the color to the lowest value, color value. I don't think I'm going to have that issue with Tombows because it's not alcohol. Alcohol, like Sharpie markers on some cardstock, sucks the ink up like an ink pad, and it gets underneath the laminate. So you have to be so careful. And this does not give you one to test, but start on the darker toned ones, and that will help you know. But I'll show you what I do at the end of this video. They look like they're going to shuffle well, like they're slippy, and they look like they're going to feel like they're going to shuffle well. We'll see when we're done. Again, the cardstock is slightly like cardboardy, which is I think why you're getting a lot of look already at the get-go of chipping already on the edges. But I think that the artwork is going to well outplay the the card stock. And this price-wise is showing in the US as $42.99, UK $26.99, and euros at $32.99 is the price here. I will put the link to the website in the description box below. Okay, so let's take a look at these, and I do want to look at them a bit in terms of the structure because I think that's really important in this deck. Now, on the cards themselves, let's get one that's the second one that has the actual image here. On the cards themselves, we just have a number. There's no title there. You definitely are going to want to become friends with the guidebook, I would assume. I know I have seen somebody, I'll have to see if I can find the image. Somebody wrote on these the name of the cards. Like this is 2, so this would be First Light, but I don't intend to do that because I think that you can just really kind of dive into the images and then just look them up. I don't think that's going to be too difficult to do. It seems to be really well organized. It's numerical. It'd be really quick and easy to find them. So, but if I can find an image of somebody doing that, I'll put a link to it. So let's just take a look a little bit at the structure, and then I'll show them individually. I think that's how I'm going to do this, just because I wanted to talk about these. You know, she has a very specific structure here. So the first one, we have 0, 1. Look at that. Hopefully you can see this. Very light, beautiful. 1, 2, and 3. So here we have, let me see how far I go. Although I'm going to be zooming in and out because there's different numbers. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then I'll show you them up close. So the first section here is called the source. So this one, it says the different chapters of the creation story begin with the unimaginable energies that comprise divinity. The first and most difficult for us to imagine is the void or nothingness. Then something shifts, a tremor in the void, a hint of sound, the germination of possibility, first light. Suddenly, a charge flashes through the darkness which convulses into life, and consciousness explodes into the darkness which convulses into the void. This is it, because the nature of consciousness is to create. It reaches outside itself through the void, and so begins creation as the source, and then creation. So we have this this idea of source and how things began, energetically in that sense here, where we move from the void, right, to the first light, to that divine source here, and then this act of creation that looks absolutely stunning, just like the beginning of things. So that is the first suit, I guess, in a sense here. So yeah, have patience with me. I just feel like this is the best way to do this. Okay, so this is the first emanation. So we had source, and now we have the first emanation, which is the shining ones. And she talks about these as being somewhat similar if you have the idea of archangels or seraphim, but she really uses them to reflect divine qualities such as grace and love and these types of things. You can see sort of birds or angelic, definitely more of an angel figure here, here, and here, and even here, but in a beautiful, and you can see it just slightly there, kind of blending in, but you definitely have that sense of divine energy there, which is really beautiful. And so these, I know this is probably a bit of an awkward way to do it, but I want you to be able to see the breakdown of them as well. So here we have the grace. Here we have Eros. And these two are sort of the idea of divine, feminine, and masculine. That idea of yin and yang, although this is quite gentle and pastel for me for yang, but it's the idea of the divine masculine and divine feminine, which is wonderful to have in here. Here we have ecstasy. Here we have divine inspiration. They're so beautiful. We have love. Oh, so gorgeous. This one is on the box, and this is the Daehwa of Worlds, the bridge between the dimensions of the multiverse. Through its energy, we may glimpse a glimpse through the veil of our limited human perception to the infinite beyond. It's gorgeous. And then here we have the beautiful Daehwa of Compassion. It can be associated with the Archangel Raphael. Definitely heart chakra. Talks about that. We have the Daehwa of Connection. That reminds me of like a weeping angel. In a good sense, not in a Doctor Who sense. The gorgeous Warrior of Light. And then the final of the first emanation is the Daehwa of Abundance. How gorgeous is that? Really beautiful. Beautiful. She's an amazing artist. These kind of things really speak to me in terms of color. I can certainly see using my Lenormand deck with this. Okay, so then the second emanation is the fundamental laws. And so we have chaos and order, and the understanding that those work together. Again, growth and decay, that understanding that both of those work in conjunction with each other. We have the space-time, which is the vortex here. Talking about gravity and all these other kinds of things in the guidebook, which is really amazing. And then the fourth one in this is the idea of eternity. Again, it's the death and life and death. So we have this beautiful image here of life and death. It is the Ouroboros, the ancient symbol of eternity, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. It also depicts the formation of earthly matter. Sorry, I'm sure I was going like this while I was reading. I know this isn't the probably best way, space-time, to do this, but I do want you to be able to see the sections. This is the growth and decay which come together, and the chaos and order, which is part and parcel. It's what makes the balance. Really gorgeous. Really gorgeous. So that is the second emanation. Oh my goodness. Which is fundamental laws. The third emanation is the Daehwas of elements. And so here we have the Daehwa of spirit. We have the Daehwa of fire. Look at that. We have the element of air. We have the beautiful element of water. Look at that. And then we have the gorgeous element of earth and the physicality there. You really can feel that. So this comprises the 5 elements. So instead of the 4 elements of fire, air, water, and earth, we have, which is actually put in the order I love of geomancy. Those things make me happy. And then we added in to have the added 5th element of spirit, which she talks here about. Contains the blueprint for all matter spiritually as well as physically. Spirit represents fundamental elements of the periodic table, such as oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and silicon, and how they bind together to form ever more complex elements like calcium, potassium, and silicon. When this Daehwa appears, it can signify the ability to see energy fields around matter, such as auras. It is also the realm of potential. Beautiful. So she does give examples of how you might read this in a reading, and then again gives you space for your own association with spirit, which is beautiful. So this is the third emanation, which is the Daehwas of elements. That takes us to the 4th emanation, which is numinous and ambivalent energies. I'm going to lay that out because there's a few of those. Okay, so these are, it says numinous qualities. The emanations of divinity continue to move outward, forming numinous qualities. Here they are seen as rebirth, initiation, guardianship, metamorphosis, courage, renewal, endurance, and vision. So let's take a look here. That's Earth. So here we have rebirth and emergence. You can just see that energy coming upward of emergence and merging out of. We have the Initiator. This is the galactic dancer, powerful planetary being. The Initiator is magician of heaven and earth. And you can see that kind of connection between the heavens and earth. The next one we have is the Witness, the Sentinel. This is really amazing here. Kind of feels like the gatekeeper for me. Stands solitary in its vigil. It's beautiful. Here we have the Guardian. Is both personal and universal. The guardian follows quietly behind us, its shadowy wings outstretched to shelter us. Beautiful. These cards are just stunning. We have Metamorphosis, the change of dissolution, which without nothing, because if you're going to change from one thing to another, at some point in the middle of it all, it's going to be this dissolution so that you can shift, right? So that kind of expresses that moment of in between that it needs to occur in order for that final metamorphosis to happen. Here we have the Daehwa of Courage. Beautiful. Here we have the night bird soaring through the thermals, soaring on the thermals. Nightbird appeals to the best and the worst, challenging us to embrace unity rather than separation. And then lastly is the Kali dance. And look at all of that abundance of color. The Daehwa here depicts the raw power of the psyche, moving across the land, crackling with lightning and energy as it goes. This Daehwa has a potential for both creativity and destruction. That's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So that is the fourth emanation. Then we come to the Daehwas of Shadow with the fifth emanation. Here we have the Dark Night. I mean, how beautiful is this? This is the Dark Night of the soul, the ferryman, the watcher, the dark angel, the soul catcher. It is our guide into the valley of the shadow. That is stunning. We have Prometheus, which I love here. Prometheus, struggling out of pain and the spirits of past lives. Prometheus is the mind that thinks for itself and fights for what it believes is right. Even while it is attacked, even dismembered, it perseveres. I love this. And it goes on to give you a talk about Prometheus and the Titans and Zeus and everything that happens. I think that's really beautiful there. And then we have Ambivalence. This Daehwa can experience the full gamut of feelings experienced by mankind. Pain, greed, fear, deception, hubris. What we see in ambivalence is our own reflection. We may see the swashbuckling, insolent, vainglorious mountebank, or a dreamer who flies too close to the sun, beauty gone wrong, but we miss the fact that it can also reflect our lost selves, the inability to weep because we are afraid that the pain would tear us apart. Oh, so beautiful. Again, these are the Daehwas of Shadow. Here we have the splitting. We can see a splitting across. Very different than the shift that occurred with Metamorphosis. This is as forces of conflict and denial. It's a constant struggle between repulsion and attraction, projection and introjection, denial and duality. So we just definitely see this struggle going on, and this literal physical pulling apart in this struggle versus a metamorphosis, which is this kind of movement towards transformation. So very different energies, in some ways speaking of the same things, but in a very different way, which is gorgeous. And then the last one is the shadow. So the shadow is as sharp as razor in satin, lurking in the depths. This Daehwa reflects the shadow within humanity. Look at that. How powerful is that? This is why Mr. Crone said, she really thought I would love this, was because it does talk about the shadow aspects. Which I think is really powerful. So that brings up those shadow and takes us to the next section, which is the physical universe, which is amazing, amazing, amazing. So let me show you those in a second. So now we're moving into this whole section, which is the physical universe, right? So we've looked at more the energetic and spiritual sort of energy there, and now we're looking at the physical universe. Which is so stunning here. And this is the sixth emanation, which is the Daehwas of the universe, which is amazing. So here we have the Cosmos card. I mean, she's amazing artist here. Here we have the nebula, Here we have the stunning stars. I can see 2 dancing figures in the stars. Oh, it even says, here the Daehwa of stars display their courtship dance. Here we have the sun, of course, which is stunning and just as a sun card should be, in my opinion, but I'm a little biased about that. Here we have Mercury. Here we have Venus. Whoops. Soft, billowy clouds that cover her surface. Here we have Gaia, of course. Earth. Here we have the gorgeous moon. I love that we can see the cycles there. We have Mars, of course. We have Jupiter here, which is so beautiful. Even the great storm, the Eye, has persisted over the 400 years since we began to observe it. We have Saturn. So beautiful. I mean, her artwork is just amazing, right? Just so beautiful. Here we have Uranus. Gorgeous Neptune. I love this. And then the last one we have for this is Pluto. So gorgeous. Let me just show you this, because these are planets, but she does a really good job. She gives an information about Pluto. It's who it's named for, the god of the dead, ruler of Hades. Talks about the mythology, and then she does a paragraph here about the science of it, the scale of the planet, the different information about the planet itself, and together with its satellite. So it talks about more of that science here. It challenges corrupt and stagnant systems and brings about change, death, and rebirth. And then it has a section kind of in personal terms. When Pluto appears, we may find unconscious fears and feelings of indefinable dread rising to the surface. Below these often lurk fears of death and mental disintegration. If we have the courage to face and express these fears through creativity, however, we can avail ourselves of Pluto's sumptuous underworld riches. So she really gives us the mythology, the more scientific aspect of things, and then how this might apply to us in a reading, and how would we work with this energy, what it might mean. So she does a really great job, I think, in this guidebook. So that is the sixth emanation, which is the Daehwas of Universe. The next are the Daehwas of the seasons, where we have the beautiful spring. Oh, look, can you see her dancing there? Kind of reminds me, and not in a way of taking from, but in that beautiful style of Margaret Peterson, where you see it when you see it as a whole, which is beautiful color, bursts of spring colors, and then you start to see these figures and things dancing within the images, which is so stunning. So here we have spring, we have the beautiful summer. She does note that the Daehwas of seasons are based on temperate latitudes rather than tropical areas where you likely encounter the Daehwas of dry and wet season. Here we experience the green canopy of summer, its welcome shade and cool woodlands. The Daehwa of summer is restful and serene, a peaceful refuge. It certainly is. Here we have the gorgeous, because this is where we are right now in where I live, the Daehwa of Autumn. It is a time of letting go in personal and environmental terms. The leaves turn and are snatched from the trees by strong autumnal gusts. The daylight fades and the land bows its head in acknowledgement of the coming winter. It is a time for forgiveness and nostalgia, melancholy and farewells. Yes. And then look at this beautiful winter card. I love this. On my Oracle deck, I just finished actually up the seasons, and so it was really wonderful to sit with those different energies. So here is the Daehwa of winter. So here we have the 7th emanation, which is the Daehwas of Seasons. Oh, this is amazing, amazing, amazing deck. The next emanation are the Daehwas of Life. I'm going to go ahead and just lay these out because there's not too many of them. Here we have the Daehwas of the Mineral Kingdom. So crystals, look at that. Oh, I love this so much. Here is the Plant Kingdom. Patrick must love this. We haven't sat down and talked too much about it because he was waiting for me to get it. Look at the face there. So we have crystals, we have plants, we have the Animal Kingdom with the elephant. You know, Patrick talks a lot on his channel about, Patrick used to be in the 78 cards. He's my friend, but he has a YouTube channel as well. And he talks a lot about these kind of 5 areas of life. And so this is kind of what this seems to be depicting here. We have the Insect Kingdom. And then we have humanity here, which technically, right, could be in the Animal Kingdom as well. But it's the marvel of creation, the male and female coming together to forge new life. Look at how beautiful. So here we have crystals, we have plants, animals, insects, and humanity here laid out in the different cards. This is such an amazing deck. I'm going to be working with this for a very long. I tend to work with this a lot with the Weaver. Okay, so what's the next one? The Daehwas of Earth. So here we're actually looking at different aspects of Earth, right? We have the stunning mount, because we live on the planet Earth. You know, we've got all those planets that we already talked about, but this is our Earth, right? This is the place in which we have our feet. So we have the mountains here. We have the beautiful valleys here. We have what I'm assuming is the ocean. Yep, the ocean. We have the desert. We have the world tree. This is the mythical world tree, the spine of the earth as described in old mythology. Each tree is an integral part of the ecosystem. Talking about trees in ancient forests, into the wild woods. Here we have the harvest time. Also the plains, right? Here we have the storm maker. And lastly, we have the stunning cave card. This depicts the soul's journey from outer to inner and back again, which is really beautiful. It's kind of what, you know, where I'm thinking about the wild wood, as I just saw, because, you know, November we're going to be going into the woods. And one of the aspects of the Wildwood Tarot is that journey inward and then outward. And this kind of just depicts that beautifully. It also reminds me of Tarot of the Hidden Realms Hermit card, who's going inward into the cave to come out again. Beautiful, beautiful energy there. And that brings us to the final, I think, wait, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, the 10th emanation is the Daehwas of Threshold. We'll talk about what the threshold means. Well, we're going to see, aren't we? There's just 5 left, so I'll put them this way. So here we have the seed. This is the womb or the conceptions. That moment of conception here. We have the Daehwas of cells, the blueprint for both animal and plant cells, each having a nucleus surrounded by filaments and microtubules. But it also gives you what this means when this would come up. Talks about health issues, talks about being important to be able to be in touch with our body and the physicality of things. So she does a really beautiful job of how would you use this, just to sink into the beauty of it, but then what do you do with that? I quite like that. Here we have the actual atom, the basic unit of matter and perhaps of consciousness, she says. At the center of each atom is the nucleus, and goes on and talks about it. And again, talks about it being seen as the core of our awareness around which our life revolves. We have quantum, kind of that quantum energy here, is about observation and coherence. Contemporary research is on the hypothetical zero-point field of the quantum realm, and the God particle offers a multitude of possibilities, in particular the parallels between the metaphysical and the physical, in line with the teaching of mystics over the ages. That's amazing. And then lastly, we come back to the void where we started, in a sense, right? The seed void, the final mysterious realm, that which scientists, in attempting to explain anomalies in their experiments on the structure of the universe, called dark matter and or dark energy. Another way to see it is that of the seed void, the artery into a different reality, at once nothingness and singularity. This Daehwa, is not an end, it is a beginning. The Daehwa of dark energy is the darkness of the birth canal, offering a passage through to the hidden side of existence where worlds are seeded and birthed. If we allow ourselves to fall into this dark aorta in total trust, after a while we will hear the heartbeat of the universe, or perhaps we may sense a new multiverse waiting to be born. Oh my goodness. And that kind of comes full circle to the original, which of course I now have mixed in here, the void. So it's just kind of brings everything full circle. So stunning. I know that was an awkward way to look at these cards, but I really wanted to make sure that you kind of see what she was building here, because it really is sort of that sense of building. Oh, I quite like how they shuffle. Although I do believe they chip real easy, so I'm going to certainly be edging, but they shuffle gorgeous for it. You know, this is a 72 card deck, so we definitely have a quite large, oracle deck. But again, I think you could probably even bridge this a little bit once I break it in a little bit more. So look at that. I mean, it's just a stunning splash of art and color and depth of meaning that I think is just beyond beautiful. Let's just pull a 3 card here, because I feel like I can't imagine truthfully doing 6 cards with this, although you certainly could. We'll look at it, but give it a couple more shuffles. Yeah, I actually quite like how this shuffles. You know, I'm not adverse to thinner cardstock because I'm a riffle shuffler, and I know I say riffle and rifle, so confused. So for me, this is beautifully shuffling, especially for how thick the deck is. It makes it really easy to shuffle, so I quite love that. See, one here, one at the split, and one there. And let's just take a look. Hers, I think, was like a triangle, which I should have at least known what I was pulling for. But it's basically past, present, and future kind of a card spread, although she has it 1, 2, and 3 here. 1 being the past. Yeah, and she does say make sure that when you're shuffling that you identify what you're pulling for, which is helpful. But I'm going to put it back here, because for me, the way that I draw, this center card here would actually have the most impact, but that's just how I read. And she does give you an example on how you might read this as well, which is beautiful. So here we have 46 for Saturn, and really easy to find them. And she talks about this counsels us to patience. In its presence, we are challenged to accept our limitations in terms of time and ability, and to submit to given structures. It faces us with restrictions and obstacles, old age and mortality. Thus, this Daehwa appears to us to remind us of unresolved issues in the past, right? Because this is in the position of the past. So that certainly makes sense. And then in the present, we have 25, which is the beautiful Witness card. When this Daehwa appears, be aware that you are required to stand strong, secure in yourself, even though everything and everyone else seems to be disintegrating around you. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed in everywhere. The ceremony of innocence is drowned, which is a Yeats poem. I love W.B. Yeats, Yeats, however you want to say his last name. But as he is holding strong, there is some restrictions and some difficulties in the past. Hold strong, right? No matter what's swirling about you, hold still. I love that. I love the idea of the Witness card here. And then going into the future here, I have number 38. I will say some of the numbers are a little bit difficult to read. But I also have bad eyes. Here we have the Stars card. Here are the Daehwa of Stars, the spur, the dancing I talked about. The star being's song can be heard throughout the cosmos as it illuminates the night sky. So of course that, for me, that idea of the stars continuing to turn, the stars of our destiny and moving forward into our destiny. Yes, there are things in the past to deal with. We need to hold strong because destiny, our whole experience, the dance of our life is still moving on into the future. So absolutely gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The other spread that she has in here, just to show you it, is this star spread here. So the first card is your present situation. The second card is the cause of conflicts or obstacles. Look at that. That's Prometheus. The third card is the changes to make in order to face the challenges. Actually, I quite like this. Let me see, can I get this up higher so that you guys can see them all? We're going to find out. The fourth card are your strengths. The fifth card is other challenges that you might have. And then the sixth card is the outcome. So I really like the positions there, and that's something I think that is really beautiful. Actually, I didn't think I would want to do a sixth card, but I will definitely be giving this a try. I'll maybe do an example reading of this in a separate video, and actually do a reading there, or do maybe a couple of these readings. But they do give a sample. The author gives a sample here, and then gives a list of common questions that you might have, as well as further reading, information about the artist. She was brought up in Zimbabwe and wanted to be an artist from the age of 4. She said, unfortunately, however, I showed no particular talent, so her father decided I should give up art and do science. I responded by nearly getting myself expelled from school, though I managed to avoid the disgrace by recanting. It took a long time to forgive myself for that. I studied graphic design in South Africa and fell in love, wandered dazed and confused, moved to London, encountered tarot and got married. I started painting very large oils, the subjects of which were strange, dreamlike beings I called Eldils, after C.S. Lewis's Spirits of Planets. I was less confused now. My artwork is improving. I was beginning to see my way spiritually. So I moved into a house on my own and did a degree in art. Met her tribe, a bunch of crazy druids, her words, and then had the tarot accepted for publication. I have to take a look at that tarot deck. And left her horrible corporate job and went to talk on angels. This was very out of character because I hold no truck with the effete, airbrush, saccharine creatures so beloved of New Age authors. But after the talk, I said to the presenter, Brian Mills, an angel therapist, someone should paint a deck of angels as they really are. And if you encountered one, you'd be shaking with awe for days. I totally agree. After a pause, I added, maybe I should paint it. And Brian said, go for it. So I did. That is pretty awesome. So that was a little peek into the creator of this deck called Daehwas of Creation. This is, to me, going to be an extremely powerful deck, I can tell you already. It just fits in with my understanding of color and energy and movement. It's stunning. Absolutely, absolutely stunning. I'm going to come back in a minute and show, of course it won't be a minute for me, and show you how I've edged this, but stay tuned. Okay, I thought, you know, I would at least show you a little bit of how I'm going to go about this, but these are my Tombow dual tip markers. This is what I used to do my Weaver's Oracle with, as well as my own deck, which is held up really well to shuffling. Of course, these are water-based. If you get them wet, you will probably have some smearing, but I don't get my decks near water, so I'm not too worried about it. So far, like I said, with, I think this one has, I'll talk about my lovely Bobby things, but we probably already talked about that. These were done with the Tombows, and I have shuffled these a lot, and they seem to be really holding up well with their vibrancy, so I'm really happy with those so far. So that's what I'm going to do with these. And so what I did with the, and I'm going to pause, I'm not going to do them all, obviously, on camera, because I actually did really set with intention on each of these with the Weaver's Oracle, and I want to do the same thing here. But what's really helpful is that I actually have, because I'm a dork in the best possible way, so I have all my Tombows out like this on paper, because it's different on paper than what these often look like. And so then I can literally take the card and see what of these blues, for example, really calls out to me. So this 555 I think is the best one, which is this one. Most of them I know because I've done this for a little bit. And then just go ahead and edge it. And this one I will be keeping some degree. You normally always want to have the back facing you, facing the direction the marker's pointing. So the back should be to the point of the tip. But I am going to be paying attention to the front a little bit, because there is some chipping on these, and I do want to make sure that chipping gets actually covered. So I will be paying a little more attention to the front than I normally do, and perhaps should actually come from the front, but I'll probably just still go from the back and just pay attention to the front. So that one I've chosen, even though yes, there's a black edge, the primary color to me is that beautiful blue, and so that's the color that I've done on the edge of this. And then I just set that aside and, you know, take the next card. Now see, this is interesting, right? Because there's a lot of things going on here for me, but I'm going for what speaks to me color wise, and for me it's actually this beautiful gold orangey color. So I'm going to go with this 993, which is this one, because it's the Watcher, right? This is the Watcher here, and so that's what for me is primary. Now this one is a little bit of a risk, I'm going to see, because I haven't checked the Tombows. It shouldn't, from my experience, suck it up like an alcohol marker. We're going to find out. Yep, it does not look like it sucked it all into the front, and that is my orange, because again, that's what color stands out for me. So I'm doing these far more intentional to the energy of the card than, you know, trying to match anything particular. So that's what I'm going to do, is go through and do this process, and I'll come back and show you when it's done. Okay, so here they are all finished. Now, I don't do this, I know the last couple you've probably seen me do have been like this. I don't do this for all of my decks, but this deck is a riot of color. Look, I mean, just look at every single one is this amazing individual piece of art, of an expression of color and energy. And so I think that this works for me. Now somebody else might say, why did you just ruin that deck like that? But for me, this really works with the energy of the deck beautifully. I did this also with my Weaver's Oracle, which I intend to be using with this deck, and that was in much more muted tones because that does the deck. But I did much the same way, where I really literally, I didn't go off of what was the edge color, but what was the color that jumped out to me when I saw the card. And so it was just really neat to go and sit with each card, look at it, see what color jumped out, pick the color and do it. It was a really nice way to get to know the cards. I have to say that now again, I have seen a lot of these images and had them shared with me a lot, but like Prometheus, a lot of the cards, or this abundance card showed up, like crystals, like even though some of this is really abstract art, like that's abundance, I believe, I have to say, even after just going through it, you know, the first impressions, that when these come up, I'm getting that energy from them. So I don't think that it's going to be too difficult to really get in tune with what the cards are, even though we don't have the keywords or the names, the titles of the cards on here. So, so that's how I ended up edging my deck, my Daehwas of Creation. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day.